my channel. If you're new here, my name is Leah and it's lovely to have you. Today I wanted to share some thoughts on the loneliness that mothers feel. Over on Channel Mum, they've been talking about the fact that most of us as mums do feel lonely at some point. In fact, 9 out of 10 of us have felt lonely. That's crazy that so many of us feel lonely, and a lot of us are women who have held really good jobs and are confident in the workplace, and yet we can feel so lonely at home. So I thought I would share with you some of my thoughts and experiences and maybe how we can get through it. Because if so many of us are feeling the same, surely we can help each other out and not just feel like we are the only one dealing with that at the time. So I am naturally quite a nervous person when it comes to social settings. I have been like that for a very long time. I probably have had times in my life when I haven't been like that. But that hasn't been for a while. I am quite a nervous person in social settings, even amongst people that I know, and I shouldn't be. I know I shouldn't be, but it is just the way I am. I do push myself to go to those social settings, and when I get there, I more often than not have a good time. So I am grateful that I went, but just before going, part of me just wishes I would stay home, which is kind of counterproductive. We need to go to social settings in order to have friends and feel like we're getting out of the house, and yet I'd much rather stay home so I didn't have to deal with that. So being home with a baby has probably just made that even worse, because I wasn't being forced to go out. When I was working before having Tommy, I obviously was going to work every day, and I had an instant group of friends that I would see on a daily basis, or at least 5 times a week. I didn't see many of them outside of work, but during the week, Monday to Friday, during the day, I would see them, and obviously I was working, but they were a group of friends that we could chat together, and if we're having any problems, we could discuss them. So when I went on maternity leave, I obviously was going to be home alone for quite some time, and the only way I was going to meet people was to really push myself to get out. I remember it took me around 3 months to go to my first baby group. I think that was baby massage, and that's because someone I knew who had a baby just before me had invited me, and I don't know why I didn't go before. I'm sure she had told me about it before, and I never went, and I should have done. Thinking back now, I really should have taken the opportunity to go to as many playgroups as possible. Playgroups and baby massage and all different things like that while Tommy was young and while I was on maternity leave, because obviously now I am back at work and it's not as easy to get to these things, and if I have any more children in the future, Tommy might not be in nursery full-time or school full-time, and it's very difficult to go to those playgroups or sessions with 2 children. In fact, it's almost impossible depending on their ages. Some of them that I go are for under 2s, baby massage was for under 6 months, so that would be completely impossible to go with an older child, because they are obviously not going to be under 6 months, as well as having another baby. And the playgroups, unless you can have your children within 2 years of each other, then that's very difficult to go to find childcare for your older child, and to be able to take your older child to playgroups, the younger child is too young, so it's so difficult. So I should have really taken an opportunity to go, and I don't know why I didn't, other than the fact I was really nervous about going. But I've found that although I have met some people at those sessions, I quite often am the one sat in the corner, very quiet, because that's just who I am. I'm quite a nervous person, and I won't approach someone to talk to them, and you can kind of feel very lonely in those situations, more lonely than being at home. It kind of just emphasises the fact that I'm not always great at making friends. I have met some people at these playgroups, but I wouldn't say that I've made any lifelong friends. In fact, I don't really see them outside a playgroup, so they're not really friends. If you want to, I can't really call them a friend. It's not someone I would call or text or keep in touch with. I will just see them if I see them at a playgroup. So, and that's just my personality. A few weeks back I was at a playgroup with my sister, and we are completely different. She was talking to everyone as if they were her best friend, and some of those people she had just met that day, and she was getting friend requests on Facebook there and then because of her personality. And I stood there watching from across the room thinking, I'm here with my child on my own, because I was. obviously my sister was with me, but her little one is younger than mine, so we were in different sections of the room. I was watching my sister from across the room thinking, how does she do it? How has she got the confidence to just talk to people as if they are her best friends? But we were discussing it, and she would say that she wouldn't do some of the things that I do, like I blog and vlog, and she said she couldn't do that, and yet she has the confidence to talk to anyone. And she's also a performer, so she sings and plays guitar, and she would happily get up and do that in front of a large group of people, but she couldn't sit in front of a camera. And here I am sat in front of a camera doing what she can't do. I guess it's just different personalities, but we need to push ourselves through it sometimes, so that we don't feel so lonely. Another thing that I have found difficult is the fact that I'm a bit of an older mum. I'm not an old mum, or at least I hope I'm not an old mum, or seen as an old mum, but I was 37 when I was pregnant with Tommy, and I had him when I was 38. I'm now 39. And a lot of the mums who are new mums, so they've got children, their first child under the age of 2, are so much younger than me, or the ones I know at least. And although I can be friends with them, and I am friends with them, I sometimes realise our age difference, and it can feel a little bit lonely for me that I'm not really in their age bracket. They aren't the people that I grew up with. They aren't the people that I would have been friends with as a teenager or as a young adult, because they are so much younger than me. I'm talking like 15 years younger than me, and I really feel it sometimes. The mums who are closer to my age, probably a few years younger than me, so 2 or 3 years younger than me, have got 3 or 4 children already, so they're in a different stage of life than me. And again, I can be friends with them, but when you're a new mum, although you can get advice and help from someone who's been there and they're now down to baby number 3 or baby number 4, they're not going through it right now with their first child. And now I don't have a second child, so I don't know what that's like. But the shock to the system of having that first child is huge, and just talking to someone who is in a similar situation as you, and obviously I can talk to the women who are so much younger than me, and I'm not saying that I can't, and I have done. I just feel sometimes that it would have been nice to have had a friend who was more my age and going through a similar situation as me. The people who I was friends with prior to having Tommy, and kind of prior to getting married to Keith, because that all happened fairly quickly. I was pregnant 6 months after we got married. They all live all over the place, not even in this country, and these are people who I did see throughout the year because I would travel, and now they are spread out all over the place. And some of those are now in a similar situation as me. They are married with their first child under the age of 2, some under the age of 1, and they're just nowhere near me. Now obviously there are Skype and Facebook and emails. I've struggled to keep in touch with people because when Tommy is awake, Skyping someone can be quite difficult because he just wants the phone. He wants to see what's going on. I can't really have my laptop out because he wants to be on it. And when he's asleep, it's at that point I think, right, okay, what's the most important thing that I need to do? It might be sleep, it might be cleaning up, it might be making a video, and that isn't the most important thing. But I do enjoy doing YouTube and blogging, and that's a little bit of something for myself. And so it is quite difficult to keep in touch with people. And I have missed having that close friend near me, someone who is close to my age and someone who I can relate to and going through similar things to me. And of course I'm still friends with those people who are at a different stage in their life. They might not have children, or they may have a few children and their children are grown up. I am still friends with them. It's just sometimes nice to talk to someone who is going through a similar thing, because it is huge. And I have struggled with it, with having a child. I never thought I would struggle with it so much. I love having Tommy, and I love the side of me that's come out as being a mother, but it is quite daunting sometimes, and you do feel like you're the only one that's going through it. And I know that I'm not. I realise now that I'm not, but sometimes at the time you feel a bit like you're the only one. You're the only one dealing with money issues, or should I say heightened money issues because of having a child. because money's tight for everyone, but it just gets so much tighter when you've got this baby and they obviously need childcare, either by yourself or putting them into childcare, and it's just so scary sometimes trying to figure it all out, and you can feel like you're the only one dealing with it. And you can feel like you're the only one whose child won't sleep or won't feed or won't settle. And again, the reality is that most parents have to deal with that, but at the time it feels like you're the only one dealing with it. I remember a long time ago, Tommy must have been about 7 or 8 months old, I think, because I remember my sister had her little boy and at the time, and he is about 5 months younger than Tommy, so I think she'd had him for a little while at that point. And I was sat in the living room holding Tommy and I just could not stop crying. I can't even remember why I was crying at the time now. It possibly was that Tommy wasn't settling. I maybe just wanted 5 minutes to myself, just 5 minutes to go and eat without him fussing that I'd put him down, or just go to the toilet. Anything, just 5 minutes to myself, and at that point I just had it, and the only thing I could do was to cry. Anyway, a couple of days later I was with my sister and we were just talking about how we were getting on, and she said that a couple of days ago she was at her wit's end with her little boy. He wouldn't settle, and he's been a lot harder to settle than Tommy has been, and so I can just imagine how hard it has been for her. And that, although she deals with it brilliantly most of the time, that day she'd had it and she just sat there and cried because she didn't know what else to do. He wouldn't settle, and the only thing she felt that she could do was cry, just let it all out. Ironically, her little boy then cheered up because he started laughing at her crying, but that's a different story. But when we worked it out, it was the same day, possibly the same time of day, and we were both sat there holding our boys, just bawling our eyes out because we couldn't handle it anymore at that point. Obviously, half an hour later, after the tears had gone, we were back on it and we were dealing with life again. But at that point, we'd had it and all we could do was cry. And it made me realise that, okay, we weren't together at the time. Maybe it might have helped if we were, but I do think getting tears out is an important part of dealing with life. Sometimes there's too many tears though, so I would like less tears sometimes. But I felt less alone, even though she wasn't with me at the time and I wasn't with her, and it didn't make the difficulty go away. Just knowing that, not that I wanted her to have to deal with the same thing as me, but just knowing that she was dealing with a similar thing to me. She just wanted 5 minutes to herself because he wouldn't settle and just go to sleep, and it just made me feel a little bit better that I wasn't the only one dealing with something difficult or having an emotional day. And so I think sometimes talking to each other, not that we need to whinge about everything all the time. I think it's important not to whinge about everything, but just to say, I've had a difficult day, this has been difficult. Obviously mentioning the good things as well is important too. Just letting other people know that you had a difficult day, that was hard, and you'll find that not only have you had a difficult day, but so many others have had a difficult day too, because having a child is hard work. I find some days that I can go through absolutely every emotion possible. I'll be happy, I'll be sad, I'll cry, I'll laugh, everything, because that's what children is about quite often. You know, Tommy can make me laugh and giggle all the time, and he makes me happy and smile all the time. But yet it's really difficult sometimes when I get annoyed at him, particularly now as he's getting a bit older and getting a bit more defiant. I can get quite annoyed at him that he's not doing what he's meant to do. But when they're so little that they absolutely don't know what they're doing, it's such hard work not knowing what they want, when they just fuss and cry, and all you want to do is make it better for them. So if you're having a difficult time at the moment, just know that you're not alone. You're not the only one that's having a difficult time, and try and find someone to talk to. Let them know how you're feeling. Not that makes it better, but just knowing that other people are going through similar things can make you feel a little bit better about it. And if you're able to, get out of the house and try and meet up with friends. Even if you haven't got really close friends, just try and meet up with someone with a child your age would be really great, and then your children can get to know each other as well. And find time for yourself. That is something that we as mums really need to work on, finding time for ourselves. It's not helpful to anyone if we just do for other people, and we can do, because there is always a long list of jobs that need doing. Whether you work out of the home or don't work out of the home, that long list of jobs is always there. So try and find some time for yourself. Whether that's when your partner gets home in the evening and you pass all the children over so that you can have some time to yourself, just find what works for you and have some time to yourself, and make time with some friends as well. This week I'm off to a play centre with some friends, people that I don't see very often in a social setting, so I'm really looking forward to that, and I know Tommy's going to love it because he loves to see other children his age and see new toys and new things to play with as well. So sometimes it is a bit scary and it's a bit difficult, but just giving yourself that little bit of a nudge to get out there is really, really good. And if you feel that you still need some extra support, Channel Mum have a Facebook group which is fantastic. You can ask any question on there and there'll be plenty of people who are willing to help. I will link that below so that you can go and check that Facebook group out, as it is really helpful, and you might find that you meet someone new through it, or just get some answers to some of the difficulties that you're having, because sometimes we as mums don't have all the answers, and there's always something new to be dealing with, and having some advice from other people, and that advice you can take or leave, but just getting some ideas from other people is really helpful sometimes. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it hasn't come across as being too negative. I didn't want it to come across as being negative. I just wanted to share some of the feelings and thoughts I've had since Tommy was born, because I have found it difficult at times. I haven't always struggled, but there has been some times when I've really struggled. And just for you to know that you're not alone, you're not the only one dealing with these things, and there are other people out there who would love to be your friends and to get to know you. I know I need to make more effort to meet up with friends, and to not only the ones that are close but the ones that are a little bit further afield, because life's too short and we are all busy. I'm super busy sometimes and just haven't got time to fit everything in, but I just need to stop sometimes, and that will help me get all the other jobs done a lot easier, because I'll be feeling a lot better about myself and about life in general, and so I do need to make more of an effort there. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!